Hey everyone, welcome back to Steve's View. Today I want to talk about a political earthquake that just shook Washington. Something that honestly, even people who follow politics every single day didn't expect. I'm talking about the sudden, dramatic, and honestly pretty explosive breakup between President Donald Trump and one of his fiercest loyalists, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you've been following American politics over the past few years, you probably know that MTG Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't just been a Republican firebrand. She hasn't just been a MAGA loyalist. She hasn't just been loud, controversial, or unfiltered. She has been, without a doubt, one of Trump's most aggressive, relentless, and enthusiastic political warriors. She has defended him at every turn, amplified every one of his messages, and taken positions so extreme that even some Republicans quietly distanced themselves. So when Trump suddenly announced that he was withdrawing his support for Greene, not quietly, but publicly, aggressively, and almost gleefully, it sent a shockwave through both the Republican Party and the American media landscape. And it wasn't just the fact that he abandoned her. It was the way he did it. The timing, the language, the implications, and the political power play behind the scenes that made this moment so explosive. In this video, I'm going to take you through everything that happened, not just the headlines, but the deeper political meaning behind all of this. Why did Trump turn on one of his most vocal allies? Why did Greene fire back so hard and so fast? And what does this fight tell us about the future of the Republican Party, the future of MAGA, and the future of Trump's own political power? I'll also walk through the broader context, the Epstein Files vote happening next week, the internal fractures inside the Republican Party, and what this means for Trump's control over Congress. Trust me, this story is not just political drama for entertainment. It represents a very real structural shift. This isn't just gossip. This is power. This is fear. This is control. This is the beginning of a MAGA civil war. All right, let's jump in. So let me start with the moment that set everything off. Late last night, Donald Trump logged onto Truth Social, his personal megaphone, and dropped a bombshell message. No warning, no softening, no polite phrasing. He wrote, and I'm paraphrasing here, "I am withdrawing my support and endorsement of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia." And then he really went for the jugular. Trump claimed that without him, Greene barely had a chance of winning her seat. He accused her of constantly complaining. He suggested she was no longer aligned with the movement. And here's the wildest part. Trump said that if someone challenges her in next year's primary, he will support her opponent. Think about that. This is the same Marjorie Taylor Greene who has defended Trump on January 6th, defended him through impeachments, defended him on COVID policy, elections, immigration, the border, everything. She has been his most loyal foot soldier, sometimes to a degree that even Republicans found uncomfortable. And now, Trump isn't just walking away. He's threatening to help destroy her career. That's not a minor disagreement. That's a declaration of political war. Now, of course, Greene wasn't going to stay silent. Within hours, she fired back with a statement that was just as explosive, maybe more. She accused Trump of lying about her. She accused him of attacking her for political reasons. And then she dropped the real bomb. "He's doing this because I support next week's vote to release the Epstein Files." Let me pause here, because this is the part where the conversation gets very, very interesting. For those who don't know, next week, the House of Representatives is scheduled to vote on whether to declassify and release the sealed Epstein documents. The ones that list names, networks, clients, associates, and possibly people who participated in Epstein's sex trafficking operations. Both parties have people terrified of those files coming out. This is not a partisan issue. It's an elite issue. It's a political class issue. It's the kind of thing that could destroy reputations, end careers, and upend the power maps of Washington, Hollywood, global finance, and beyond. And Greene basically said, Trump is trying to intimidate Republicans into voting no. Those are not small words. That's accusing Trump of trying to cover up or block something that millions of Americans believe must come to light. According to Greene, at least 4 Republican members are already planning to vote with Democrats to release the files, and more may follow. And here's the thing, Trump knows it. So what does he do? He goes after the loudest, most visible, most symbolic supporter of the vote, MTG, and makes an example out of her. In other words, break the line and you're next. Next week's vote? It just became national political theater, and Greene isn't backing down. Let me be very clear. The reason this story is everywhere in the US right now is not because Trump and Greene had an argument. Politicians argue all the time. The real reason is this. MAGA's strongest female warrior just broke with its king. That's the story. For years, the MAGA movement has been built on loyalty. Absolute loyalty to Trump. Critics get punished. Silent Republicans get sidelined. Even mild pushback gets interpreted as betrayal. But Greene? She wasn't a mild supporter. She was the cheerleader, the fighter, the fire starter, the one who stood in the front lines and took every punch. If even she can break from Trump, and if Trump is willing to publicly humiliate her, then the movement is no longer unified. This is a fracture, a real one. And every fracture creates more fractures. Political movements usually don't collapse from the outside. They collapse from internal pressure. What happened today wasn't some random fight. It was a sign that Trump's total control over the Republican Party is no longer absolute. Some Republicans see this as an opportunity to build independence. Others see it as a warning. Step out of line and you're next. Either way, the party will never be the same after this. To really understand how shocking this split is, we need to take a moment and talk about who Marjorie Taylor Greene actually is. For years, she wasn't just a member of Congress. She was a symbol, one of the loudest voices in the post-2020 Republican Party. Some of her controversies are almost legendary. She compared mask mandates to Nazi policies. She pushed conspiracy theories about 9/11 and the Pentagon attack. She once claimed California wildfires were caused by space lasers controlled by the Rothschilds. She spread QAnon theories before entering Congress. She aggressively confronted Democrats in hallways. Her boyfriend went viral for attacking Zelensky for not wearing a suit. This was someone who embraced the most extreme, fringe, conspiratorial positions that even many Republicans found embarrassing. All because she believed that was what real MAGA fighters do. And Trump rewarded her with public praise, endorsements, photo ops, and political attention. She wasn't just in the MAGA ecosystem. She was one of the pillars holding it up. So for Trump to turn on her, it's like Darth Vader suddenly firing at his own stormtroopers. It shows that loyalty is fragile in a movement built on fear and dominance. And Greene has finally experienced what others warned her about. Trump doesn't have friends, he has tools. When a tool stops being useful or starts being inconvenient, he throws it away. Let me tell you what I really think. And I'll say this in the clearest possible terms. This fight has nothing to do with complaining. It has everything to do with power. Trump is now a sitting president again. That changes the dynamics inside Republican politics dramatically. MTG is no longer a useful attack dog. She doesn't help him maintain the image he wants now. And more importantly, she's becoming her own political figure. And Trump hates independent power centers. She has her own following, her own media presence, her own fundraising network, her own MAGA identity. To Trump, that's dangerous. That's competition. That's someone inside the movement who has influence outside of his direct control. Look at Trump's history. Anyone who becomes famous through him, eventually becomes a threat to him. Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, Ron DeSantis, Kari Lake, briefly. Mike Pence, John Bolton, Jeff Sessions, Chris Christie. Even Rudy Giuliani Greene is just the latest on the list. But the timing matters too. With the Epstein Files vote coming up, and with Greene supporting full disclosure, Trump sees a real risk. He wants to prevent Republicans from crossing him. He wants to keep control of the party before the 2025 legislative agenda begins. He wants to make sure everyone knows he decides what the movement does. So he picked a target, fired a public warning shot, and waited to see who flinches. This is classic Trump. This is how he consolidates power. And Greene happened to be the one holding a match near a pile of very dry political gunpowder. Let's talk about the Epstein Files vote again, because this is the part that will shape the rest of the story. According to Greene and multiple reports, at least 4 Republican members want to vote with Democrats to release the files. This is not the kind of vote leadership can easily control, and it's definitely not the kind of vote Trump wants to be surprised by. You want to know why? Because nobody knows exactly what's in those documents, but everyone suspects they involve billionaires, politicians, entertainers, global elites, possibly multiple heads of state, and anyone who ever interacted with Epstein's network. It is not an exaggeration to say this might be one of the most explosive transparency votes in modern American history. And Trump does not want surprises, especially not when he's back in the White House and trying to control the first year of his second presidency. So he went straight for the messaging. If you betray me on this vote, I will destroy your political career. That's the real message behind his attack on Greene. And next week's vote is now a test, not of transparency, but of loyalty. Will Republicans bow to Trump, or will some of them break ranks? This is the kind of moment that can redefine a party. This is why the media is obsessed with this story. Because it's not about Greene, it's not about Trump, it's about the future of the Republican Party. Here's the bigger picture, the part that matters most for anyone thinking long-term about American politics. For the first time since 2016, MAGA is not unified. You now have Trump loyalists, MAGA institutionalists, Republican populists, and a growing group of people who want MAGA without Trump. That last category, people like Greene, are becoming more visible. They love the movement. They love the style. They love the culture war energy. They love the base. But they don't want to be permanently chained to Trump himself. That is a huge problem for Trump, because his entire political power depends on the idea that he alone defines the movement. If people start thinking they can be MAGA without him, the spell breaks. And that is exactly what this fight represents. This is not about issues. This is about ownership. Who owns MAGA? Who speaks for MAGA? Who defines MAGA? Trump says, only me. Greene says, not anymore. That's why this split is historic. If you ask me what this moment represents, here's my honest conclusion. This is the most significant internal MAGA split since the movement began. It shows Trump's grip is no longer absolute. Republican members are starting to think independently. The Epstein Files vote is a major stress test. Trump is willing to publicly destroy even his most loyal allies. MAGA's future may not be as unified as its past. This is a turning point, not just for Trump, not just for MTG, but for the entire political identity of the Republican Party. Next week's vote will tell us a lot, not just about transparency, not just about Epstein, but about whether Trump still commands total obedience. Whatever happens, it's political theater at its peak, and a moment the historians will probably look back on as the start of something much bigger. So stay tuned, because the Republican Civil War is just getting started.